Nephrotic syndrome. This class is for the BSc Nursing second year students. So, what is nephrotic syndrome? Syndrome, as you all know, it means the collection of symptoms. So, basically, nephrotic syndrome means a collection of symptoms which are associated with the glomeruli disease damage. So basically, in the nephrotic syndrome, there is a classic tetrad. It means it is collective. There are four collective symptoms, right? These are proteinuria. It means there is more than 3.5 gram of protein in a 24-hour urine sample. So uh, because there is a proteinuria, so the serum or the blood albumin levels get decreased, so there is a hypoalbuminemia. So in the hypoalbuminemia, there is the less than albumin levels are less than the 2.5 gram per deciliter. Then there is edema, and then there is the hyperlipidemia. So nephrotic syndrome is basically constituted of the four symptoms, which are proteinuria, hypoalbuminemia, and the edema and the hyperlipidemia. Now, why nephrotic syndrome occur? So basically, we can also say is that there are two types of nephrotic syndrome. First one is primary nephrotic syndrome, and second is the secondary nephrotic syndrome. In the primary nephrotic syndrome, this results because of glomerular disease, which is limited to the kidney. And secondary nephrotic syndrome, this affects the kidney and other parts of the body. So basically, in the primary nephrotic syndrome, there is only damage of the glomeruli, and this disease affect only the kidney. But in the secondary nephrotic syndrome, there is a disease which is affecting the other body parts along with the kidney. So in the primary nephrotic syndrome, for example, the person is having glomerulonephritis or glomerulosclerosis. So because of this, there is a damage of the glomeruli. So this is the primary nephrotic syndrome. Now in the secondary nephrotic syndrome, the person is having other diseases like diabetic nephropathy, SLE, sarcoidosis, syphilis, hepatitis B, HIV, amyloidosis, vasculitis, or there are other drugs like penicillin, captopril. So these are the causes of secondary nephrotic syndrome, in which there is no any uh, direct kidney damage, glomerular damage, but the disease is affecting the other parts of the body, and one of the part is the kidney also. So that's why it is called secondary nephrotic syndrome. So if the person is having diabetes and the blood sugar levels are not regulated properly, there are increased blood glucose levels. This will cause the inflammation of the glomeruli, because the blood glucose will be deposited there, right? So the inflammation of the glomeruli occur, leading to the this nephrotic syndrome. Similarly, if the person is having any autoimmune disorder like SLE, the person is having any sarcoidosis, amyloidosis, what is happening? There is a deposition of the immune complexes or the amyloid. All these are get deposited into the glomeruli. When these are get deposited into the glomeruli get damaged, due to which there is the nephrotic syndrome. Similarly, in the HIV, hepatitis B, the antigens are get deposited into the glomeruli. Similarly, for the syphilis also. In the vasculitis, there is the inflammation of the blood vessels. So basically, the glomeruli constitute of the capillaries. So these are also get inflamed. So there is no any regular blood flow, normal and the regular blood flow to the glomeruli region also. So therefore there is a secondary nephrotic syndrome and causing the nephrotic syndrome. There are drugs like penicillin, captopril, which are nephrotoxic in nature and which are increasing the proteinuria. So basically in the secondary nephrotic syndrome there are disease conditions which are affecting the other parts of the body, and but also their kidneys damaged due to these diseases. So this is the secondary nephrotic syndrome. So we have discussed about the types of nephrotic syndrome. There are two types, primary and the secondary, and the causes also. Now pathophysiology. If there is a structural damage of the glomerular filtration barrier, there is a loss of protein, and due to which there will be increased hepatic protein synthesis. So as we have discussed, glomeruli, it will allow only some substances to pass through the glomeruli, right? Basically those which are smaller than the 40,000 daltons, they are easily permeable, while others which have a size more than this 40,000 dalton, they are not filtered. So basically protein which is not lost in the urine, it will get lost into the urine because of glomeruli damage. It means the person is having proteinuria and the hypoalbuminemia. Now if in the body there are decreased levels of protein, this will stimulate liver to synthesize the proteins. So now when there are decreased serum albumin, the oncotic pressure will be decreased. Now because of the decreased of the oncotic pressure, the fluid will shift into the interstitial tissue, and this will lead to the edema. So basically there is a proteinuria. Because of proteinuria there is hypoalbuminemia. Because of hypoalbuminemia, the oncotic pressure is decreased, due to which fluid will shift into the interstitial tissues and the person will have edema. Now elevated lipoproteins to compensate for the loss of albumin, there is increased cholesterol and the triglycerides and the lipiduria. So now because the albumin, the proteins in the blood are decreased, the liver will compensate. It will form lipoproteins, and because of lipoproteins, these are the transport proteins for the cholesterol and the triglycerides. So because these are increased, the cholesterol and the triglycerides will also be increased, leading to the hyperlipidemia. Now if these are more, then there will be lipiduria. So first we discuss about the loss of the protein in the urine. Second is loss of the antithrombin third. Now because the antithrombin third is also lost in the urine, there is a decreased levels of antithrombin third. So and also because of the loss of fluid in the extravascular space, the blood get thick and there are more chances of hypercoagulation. It means person get more prone for the embolic events like the pulmonary embolism or the renal vein thrombosis. So second is loss of antithrombin third. Right, then third is loss of immunoglobulins. If the immunoglobulins are lost, there will be increased risk of infection. Then loss of transport proteins which are related with the vitamin D and the thyroxine. So there will be vitamin D deficiency, and if there is vitamin D deficiency, ultimately it will cause the hypocalcemia, and there is a thyroxine deficiency leading to the hypothyroidism. So we discuss about the pathophysiology, in which we discuss that there is the loss of protein, loss of immunoglobulin, loss of antithrombin third, loss of transport proteins. So because of all this, the various signs and symptoms occur. First one is marked edema, which starts with the periorbital edema and then later pitting edema, then weight gain. Then there may be frothy urine, which indicate proteinuria and the hypertension. The edema can be viewed at with different things, right? There may be puffiness around the eyes, characteristically in the morning. There may be pitting edema over the legs. There may be fluid in the pleural cavity which may cause the pleural effusion. There may be fluid in the peritoneal cavity which may cause the ascites. There may be generalized edema which is also known as anasarca. So basically edema may be shown in different forms. Now, hypercoagulable state with increased risk of thrombosis and the embolic events means pulmonary embolism, renal vein thrombosis. There may be increased susceptibility to the infection. There may be symptoms of the hypocalcemia because of vitamin D deficiency. Now, how to diagnose this nephrotic syndrome? First is urine analysis. If depistic method is used, the protein will be 3 or more than 3 plus, right? In the 24-hour urine protein, there may be protein will be more than 3.5 gram. Then if we do the sediment, there may be proteinuria, lipiduria, fatty cast or renal epithelial cells. Now in the blood, the total serum protein, albumin, immunoglobulins and the antithrombin third will be decreased. The cholesterol, triglycerides will be increased. And if it is a severe condition, there will be abnormal kidney function test with increased creatinine and the blood urea nitrogen. In the ultrasound, there may be enlarged kidneys because of inflammation. And in the renal biopsy, this renal biopsy will tell us whether it is a primary or the secondary. So this is the diagnostic measures for the nephrotic syndrome. Now how to manage this condition? So in the management of the condition, we will manage by managing the edema, hypoalbuminemia, hyperlipidemia and the thrombophilia. So if the person is having edema, we should ask the person to do rest. Then the calories which are required per day are 35 kilocalorie per body weight per day. Then ask the person to not consume more than 1 gram of protein per kg body weight per day, because it will be get permeable into the urine. So do not consume more than that. Restrict the ingestion of sodium. Okay, so restrict it 1 to 2 gram per day. It means do not use the salt for the cooking, or do not eat the salty foods. Then diuretics are also given. So this was all about the edema. Now hyperlipidemia. So always ensure that the person cholesterol level should be less than 300 milligram per day. Avoid the saturated fats like the butter, cheese, fried foods, fatty cuts of the red meat, egg yolks and the poultry skin. For the thrombophilia, heparin can be used as a prophylaxis, or if the person is having thrombophilia, along with the heparin, oral anticoagulants can be used. Increase the unsaturated fat intake like olive oil, canola oil, peanut butter, avocados, fish and the nuts. This is for the hyperlipidemia measure. Then we can also use hypolipidemic drugs like statins, fibrates and the resinous secretors of the bile acids. So this was for the hyperlipidemia. Now thrombophilia, we can give low molecular weight heparin. If the thrombophilia is such that it leads to the formation of blood clot, heparin should be given for at least 5 days along with the oral anticoagulants. Then antibiotics are given in case of infections. Then vitamin D and calcium supplements for the hypertension, ACE inhibitor. Corticosteroids are also given, example prednisone. These decreases the proteinuria, risk of infection and the edema resolution. Immunosuppressants like cyclophosphamide may also be indicated in recurring nephrotic syndrome in the corticosteroid dependent or the intolerant people. So basically, if nephrotic syndrome can't be managed with the corticosteroids, we can give the immunosuppressors. So we discussed about the management, in which we discussed about how to manage the edema, proteinemia, albuminemia, hypoproteinuria, hypoalbuminemia, hyperlipidemia. So now, what are the complications of the nephrotic syndrome? First, thromboembolic disorder, because I already told you there is a loss of the thrombin. Antithrombin, third, there is a loss of the antithrombin, third, leading to the increased risk of the blood coagulation. So basically, there may be pulmonary embolism or the renal vein thrombosis. Now, in the infection, the person is more prone for the peritonitis, skin, lung, and the urinary infection, meningoencephalitis, and the septicemia. If the ascites is there, the person may have spontaneous bacterial peritonitis, and because the person is having edema, there may be hypovolemia. So there will be reduced blood supply to the kidney, leading to the acute kidney failure. Then pulmonary edema may occur, hypothyroidism in the cases in which there is the loss of the thyroid binding protein. Hypocalcemia because of vitamin D deficiency, anemia because of the transferrin loss in the urine, protein malnutrition because of the loss of the protein. So all these are the complications of the nephrotic syndrome. So we discussed what is nephrotic syndrome, what are its types, what are the causes, what is the pathophysiology, what are the signs and symptoms, how to diagnose the nephrotic syndrome, and how to do management of a person with a nephrotic syndrome. So this was all about today's session. Thank you so much.